Hi, namaste, and welcome to Breakout with me, Abha. Yes, I'm the author of Nucleus Power Women Lead from the Core, founder of thegrowthactivist.com, anti-status quo advocate, leadership speaker, mental strength coach, lawyer, poet, actor, and a firm believer that rules are either meant to be upgraded all the time or they should not exist at all, not in any way that ever reduces human growth. You know, Breakout is committed to bring to you exceptional people, exceptional change makers, walk the talk human dynamos, business mavericks, movers and shakers, thought transformers, empowered men and women who have been there and done that. And they bring to you their expertise, their learnings, and their insights for us to gear up and break out of whatever we may be thinking is blocking us and break into what we think is necessary for us in life and in business. We got to start believing that there is only one rule to life, and that is that there are no rules to life. We can just make them up all on the way. Everything is figure outable. Now, my guest today is, she's bringing to us something really, really exciting today, and something that we all relate to, but we haven't probably thought of in a manner that it would impact us in the way it is going to impact us today when we talk to her. She is a California-based author with a passion for celebrating the spiritual in our daily lives and educating everybody else around that. She's worked as a writer, a teacher, and holds a dual master's degree in education and school counseling. After getting to know her father better, when her mother passed away from cancer, she felt inspired to write a book on what she discovered on the way about her father and how he managed and how he dealt with the entire thing, death of his wife, and how he took care of the children. And the book is called Dadly Wisdom, to celebrate the lives and wisdoms of father. She then spent many years interviewing fathers throughout the world, and she now offers their powerful stories in this transformative book of love, joy, and inspiration. Please welcome Jennifer K. Jordan.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you, Jennifer. You could make time for this. I'm so looking forward to speak to you because we are going to go into Father's Day in a month from now. And I think your book is so timely and so powerful. I've seen through it. I've read a couple of pages out there, a couple of chapters there, sorry. And it's amazing what you have done. So you let me just ask you the question that there are many things people say about dads, and how dads are supposed to be, how dads should be, you've now taken it from the dad's perspective, what they think they should be. So give us a peep into how you got inspired, what really happened, and what about your dad did you see that you went out writing a book about that?
Well, what first changed after my mother passed away was I really got a sense of his vulnerability. And once we learned that my mother was so sick, and he completely sobbed in my arms, almost like he was collapsing in my arms. And I had never seen him cry once in my whole life. And I was in my early 30s. So when he opened up on a deeper, more vulnerable level, a side that I saw him was just his deep love for my mother. He said that when they met, it was like a comet struck, and then that love just grew deeper and deeper. And so I really got a sense of how deeply devoted that he was to my mother. In terms of wisdom, he certainly knew how to have great relationships. He had many friends. So when he went through the loss of my mom, he just huddled with all these other friends that he'd built up over the years as like a cocoon, to help him go through that whole horrible process and then come out to where he could go on with his life and remarry and live a happy, still keep living happily, knowing that that's what my mother would have wanted him to do.
Right. So how were, you said you were 30, and what was your reaction to your own mother's death, and I think you were sitting on the outside of it, watching him go through this process and how he dealt with it. What exactly struck you for in your mind as a person? I mean, if you just saw him as a person first, and then you saw him as your mom's husband, then as a father, what did he do with you people, you and your siblings?
We all huddled together, and he actually started asking me for help. So they had a very traditional marriage in the sense that my mom did most of the home activities like cooking, cleaning, laundry, all that kind of thing. So after my mom passed away, my dad needed to learn how to do that. So he would ask me to do things like, how does he cook spaghetti? He didn't know how to do the dryer for the clothes. He would get the lint stuck in it and couldn't understand why the clothes weren't getting dry. And so it put us in a whole different relationship where I could be a little bit more nurturing with my feminine side with him to be able to kind of help him with some of those things that he had never learned. So we were in like different roles also, and that was also special for me where I could show that caring towards my dad.
Right.
And then of course there were, we started spending a lot more time together. We would go out to breakfast regularly. We started doing more activities together, like going to plays, to art exhibits. So we just got closer that way. So it's like he bonded more with me and I bonded more with him, to the point that I came to not just love my dad deeper, but I came to like him. And I realized that even if he wasn't my dad, I would still like him.
Okay, so is it the subtitle of your book is Untold Stories That Represent the True Faces of Fatherhood, and I think you've got 100 odd stories there of all your interviews with dads. How did you come up with that subtitle?
Well, since it talks about the untold stories and the true faces of fatherhood,
Right.
to me, what I was really in search of was listening to the fathers' hearts. And I felt that's what was most missing in the world. I felt like people maybe saw them as just doing activities out in the working world, but I was more interested in their feelings and listening to how they felt about being a dad, what their greatest challenges were as a dad, their sorrows, but then also their happiest times as a dad. So I really wanted to hear their insides, and I think that's what that was the essence of them I was trying to capture in terms of a face that hadn't been seen before.
Right. So through all these interviews and your own personal experience with your dad, did anything surprise you? Is there anything new which you did not think you had ever thought of? What about the dads? So many dads that you spoke to surprised you, and then how did it help in the process of writing this book?
Well, what really surprised me was that of all the wise dads, the one trait that all of them shared in common was that they were extremely humble. So when I listened to their stories, and I felt like I was hearing just such outstanding examples of human beings, and they were all completely so humble. Most of them, when I would call them and say that they had been referred to me as a wise father, would all say, "Oh, I don't think I have any wisdom to share."
Huh.
And then as we'd talk, I mean, they were filled with wisdom, but they had no idea they were such filled with wisdom. And I mean that in a positive sense, so that they were so humble about who they were that I just admired that so much. So that really surprised me. And then the other thing was just the deep love that they shared about their kids, and that even if they weren't saying it all the time,
Right.
what really came out was that all their actions were all for the kids. Everything was based around being for the kids.
Right.
And I did not know that. My dad didn't always speak and say, "Well, I'm going to graduate school now," or "Now I'm taking these extra jobs, so we can have some more income to help our family, so you and Eric can go to college someday," etc. I didn't know that. All I knew was he was doing all this work. I didn't understand. So what I heard from all these fathers was that kind of story, but why they were doing it. It was all for the kids. So
Wow.
that helped me even come to love my own father even more. I thought, wow, he did all that, and I had no idea that it was for my brother and I.
Yeah, I think usually it's the men folk don't talk, and they just keep doing this stuff and nobody knows, and especially as at a place of dads. They're more like they're more withdrawn so that kids don't see what's really going on and kids don't feel the pressure. So this is so amazing. What exactly did your dad do now to change this? You just mentioned a couple of things. Your dad also went out to do some extra stuff to add on to what was already going on.
Well, he was working as a teacher and a coach. And then he also taught driver's training. He would teach extra classes. He went on and got a master's degree, became an administrator. He would do extra things for testing certain groups of kids for college orientations on Saturday. He did a ton. And again, I never knew why, but he was always careful, though, amidst all that, to still have time for my brother and I. He would still show up for all of our events. I can't even remember him missing one of our events. My brother and I were both into a lot of athletics. So even though he was doing all these things, which at the time I didn't know what the motivation was, um, even though he was doing all that, he still kept my brother and I and my mom as priorities. And
Right.
that focus on family made a huge impact on me. And that's the ethic I was seeking in these other men who still were competent, successful in whatever realm of life they are, chose to be in, but who also kept family as a priority and then focused everything else, around that nucleus.
Okay, so give me a couple of examples of the dadly wisdom that dad shared with you through some of the stories that you've told in your book.
Okay, one thing that really struck me was one aspect of dadly wisdom was also being willing to learn from one's children and having that humility and openness. So, for instance, one of the men who became a father, he was an alcoholic. He was drinking a lot. And when he had kids, he became sober. He started taking care of himself better so that he could be there for his kids. Another father had been in prison. He was a teen dad. When he got out and became a dad, he changed his life around for his kids. So, one sign of wisdom then would be to allow oneself to change in order to fulfill their role. One other aspect that quality I saw in these men was that they had the wisdom of being of service to others. And this was really strong. Again, they were of service in their families with, being there for their kids, being there for their wife, but they were also of service in the community. For instance, the man from Afghanistan who now lives in California, he has different charities to help widows and children in Afghanistan. Another man, this is a man from Kenya. He lives here now, but he's got a whole ministry to help people with AIDS. One of to help. Like, for instance, he gives his local school districts lots of money in order to buy computers. And he teaches his kids also to have that sense of gratefulness and to give. So that service element was huge.
Right. So in the stories that you've covered and the wisdom that you've covered, I see their stepdads there, right?
You,
Step
oh, yes,
stepdads, stepfathers.
absolutely. Yes.
How was it any different from real dads and stepdads, and what did you notice there?
Well, the particular stepdad that I interviewed, his name was Darwin Bickwell. What I really learned from him was, again, his humility that he was willing to step aside from the kids that he was a stepdad, who were his stepchildren, that he knew that he never could replace their true father. And so, for instance, when it was a high school graduation and one of the kids was only able to invite two people, he knew that he was not going to be the other choice. It would be the mom and the original father. And he was willing, like, to step aside, like, graciously. So we had that grace to know that he couldn't replace him. He could still be an excellent father,
Right.
but he would have that difference. But he was so humble that it's not like he would give the child a hard time about it. And also, of course, he would embrace all the new children. And I think in his family, he had a few of his own. His wife had several of her own. And then they had to learn to work together. But again, he's a completely open personality and, working together with them. But I remember he really had that sense of knowing that he could still be fully himself and it didn't take anything away from him being a dad if there were times when, he had to step aside.
That's nice. That's so nice. Often you see trouble brewing in places where there's stepdads, stepmoms, but this sounds great. So, how did this impact you? Because I'm sure this is like while I'm listening, I'm getting goosebumped all the time. How did all this and speaking to so many dads and looking into the deeper side of fatherhood impact you as a person? So if we should stop overlooking this part of the men's lives and celebrate fatherhood. Tell us about that.
It was life changing for me going through all of this. And I left almost every interview in tears. I was so moved by what the men said. And I came to love them all. They became like a great big family of fathers. I'm still in contact with several of the fathers, and I've got all these new friends. Sometimes they even are like fathering, so to speak, towards me. And for instance, this past Saturday was the book launch for the new book, and then a father called me in the morning just to see how I was doing, and just, how are you doing, Jennifer? Are you nervous? And to just kind of talk. And I said, yes, I am. And he talked to me in a comforting way, and then I hung up, and I was so touched I started crying again. And I saw him later that day, and what I thought about it was, nobody told him to do that. He just does it because that's what the really nice dads do. They kind of take on that fathering role with everybody.
Right.
So I feel like I got all these fathers.
Right.
And I gained a sense of awe and appreciation for fathers. And it also made me want to hear more. It was very hard to cut off the book because I loved interviewing the fathers, and I could have kept going. So friends would finally have to say, Jennifer, you have to stop. You have to finish this book.
Right.
And but it was hard because I truly came to love them all. And they were all so special in their own way, all wanting to help. And it really also just kind of renewed my faith, too, in family and seeing the goodness in men, not just locally, but throughout the world.
Right. Right. So, yeah, this is amazing because I think fatherhood is something that's so obvious, and we all take it so for granted that we don't look into the deeper sense of what it means to the person who is the father and how they are looking at it. So it's a great job. I wish you all the best with the book because I think everybody should read it, not just people who are dads themselves, but who are dads to be, moms, children, because this is one area of life which needs to be celebrated a lot more. Because my dad was my hero. I always used to be, he would always tell me, I never heard from him, you can't do this, you're a girl or something. He was always by my side, even though he wasn't a great communicator, but he was one man who just stood by you, come what may. So I still remember times when he was people were all against him because he would stand up for his kids, because we live in a society where we are supposed to be a certain way, and he never was, just because it was his kids. So it's he made us braver and courageous. So I love that part. Great. So Jennifer, I'm so looking forward to let everybody know. Please go look for Dadly Wisdom. This is Jennifer Jordan's book called Dadly Wisdom. untold stories that represent the true faces of fatherhood. Jennifer, where can we get this book? Where can people purchase the book and how can they contact you?
Right now, it's available on Amazon, so they could just go to Amazon and Dadly Wisdom, and then my whole name, which is Jennifer Karen Jordan. They can contact me through my website, through the contact page, and that's jenniferkarenjordan.com. Karen in the middle is spelled Karin with an I.
Yeah.
They also could go to my Facebook page, which is Jennifer Karen Jordan Author, or they could go to my Twitter site, which is JK Jordan Author. So either of those ways
Great.
would be wonderful.
Right. So I think for everybody who's listening, please go to Jennifer's site. It is Jennifer, Jennifer. Karen, that's her middle name, Karin. Jordan, Jordan, and that's .com, Karen, Jennifer.
Yes, it is.
Okay, JenniferKarenJordan.com. You can find her on Facebook as Jennifer K. Jordan Author and also on Twitter as JK Jordan Author. Please go get this book. This is one amazing collection of 100 talks she had with fathers all over the world who have shared their innermost feelings about what they feel being a dad, how they feel they can fulfill that responsibility. So you'll get so many ideas about who a father can be, who it must be, because there are common threads out there, Jennifer, which tell that being a father is like an awesome feeling, right? So I want everybody to listen, everybody to go get that book called Dadly Wisdom, and wish everybody a fantastic Father's Day. Go hug your dads, talk to them, interview them. Actually, just go interview them, like Jennifer has done. Ask them, look around for more dads, and just grab them and just put them on the seat and say, talk to us about what it is like being a dad. So we are celebrating Father's Day here. We are celebrating fatherhood here. We are celebrating a part of life. This is which is so powerful and so empowering. And we wish good luck to all the good dads out there, bad dads out there. I don't know what bad dads mean. They're all good dads. Good dads, bad dads, ugly dads, happy dads, not so happy dads. Dads, we love you all very much. So Jennifer, thank you very much for this gift. Your book is very powerful. I would suggest that we put it out. All everybody who's listening, just go, Joe, share it on Twitter, share it on social media pages. It's an awesome book. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.